This is Comic Geek Speak, episode 1671, New York Comic Con chat, as well as previews!
Laser beams, opinions like the seasons on everything you read in comics, movies, games, toys, artists, Comic Geek Speak, Comic Geek Speak, Comic Geek Speak, Comic Geek Speak, Comic Geek. Uniting the world's mightiest heroes. This is...
I'm Brian Chrisman.
I'm Adam Murdo.
And you're Adam Murdo. We'll do that in a second, everything else.
And I'm Chris Eberly.
And welcome to the show. And actually, we are Chris Eberly less today, as well as Shane. So, to join us, to help us out with previews and a little bit of New York Comic Con chat, is Mr. Eric Nolen-Weathington.
Little Muppet Show for you there, Mark.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, welcome back to the show, Eric.
Good to be.
Yes, Eric, if you don't already know, listeners, has been a longtime listener of ours. He helps out on the forums with correcting our pronunciations of people's names.
So we're thrilled to have him with us tonight because anytime we mispronounce the name of any creator listed in this previews catalog, he can correct us automatically.
That's right.
Now we're going to come up with somebody who I don't know.
And also, he
jinxed me.
Yeah, he's been with TwoMorrows for quite some time. Helps out a lot with their publishing line, especially the... oh my God! Right behind you, Adam. What am I thinking of? The line there with his name on it there. The Modern Masters.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
Yes, there's quite a few things behind.
I understand that. We have quite a library of your TwoMorrows things here. But I think you were actually first on the show, if I have this correct. It looks like episode 715 back in 2009. A conversation with Guy Davis, and we had you on afterwards to talk about...
Actually, Pants, you're mistaken. I was on earlier than that.
Okay.
I was on the show, first show that Peter and Brian did at Heroes Con.
Oh, okay.
And I don't even remember what that year was, but it was a long time ago. It was like around episode 70-something, maybe.
Wow. Okay, so you've been on many times in the past.
Yeah. Peter interviewed me as being the only person from TwoMorrows there at the time. I was the chosen interview. So that was, I wish I could remember the episode, but yeah, that was a long time ago.
All right, well, to the archives.
A couple or three forums ago.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Well, like I mentioned, this is going to be our New York Comic Con chat as well as our previews. So, as always, these episodes are brought to you by Discount Comic Book Service. Go to dcbservice.com for all your pre-ordering needs. Because, as always, when you pre-order with them, any new DC, Marvel, Dark Horse, or Image book, they are right away 40% off cover price. Most other publishers between 20 and 35% off cover price. And they do run many specials where they could be 45, 50, 60, even up to 75% off cover price.
Did you say 75% off?
That's crazy. Did. That's crazy. How do they do it? Volume. But they also run many bundles each month where they will put together like titles for one low price. They also continue to have, when you pre-order any new DC, Marvel, trade or hardcover, they are 50% off the cover price. You can get your books bagged and boarded. You can get your books shipped weekly, twice monthly or monthly. We've used them for quite a long time. They're fantastic. You can always add books after the fact. If they haven't, they will put them on your list for you. It's great. So check them out if you haven't already. Discount Comic Book Service at dcbservice.com. And I also want to mention, because we do also have another new sponsor, this episode is also brought to you by LearnToGradeComicBooks.com. Do you want to learn what your comics are worth? Have you been at a convention holding your Grail book but not sure if it was actually in the condition the dealer priced it as? Well, the Learn to Grade Comic Books course will give you the skills you need to buy and sell comics with confidence. Now, this is done from a longtime friend of ours, Kevin Volo, who is actually an instructional technologist and designer. And, of course, what that means is he helps universities, faculties develop online courses. And he's done one for grading comic books. And it is quite thorough. It takes you step by step through every comic grade level, explaining in detail why each book received the grade that it did. Video lessons examine 3 different titles at each grade to give you a solid baseline for understanding the grading criteria. Lessons are broken down in over 30 high-definition videos.
That is a slew of videos.
Yes, with high-resolution images to make sure you can clearly see the details being discussed. That's over 8 hours of course content, plus bonus materials. Now, the bonus materials include some things like, I don't think about too often, but how to take care of your comics, like proper bagging and boarding of them. Mm-hmm. He goes into that. It's really detailed. It's really great. And actually, the last time I had mentioned the sponsor, I forgot to mention the price. You get all of that for $49. But if you use the coupon code CGS2017, you get an extra 5% off the course. And like I said, I'm going to be taking a look at that because I'm just going to start slowly looking through my books that I have, because I go back to the early Silver Age, even late Golden Age, and see what books I have that are worth possibly getting graded certified grading or just raw just to sell, because I need to pare down the collection a little bit. So check that out at learntogradecomicbooks.com.
Anytime you feel like having that sorting party you keep threatening to have,
I know.
Show up on your doorstep with a pack of Mylars in one hand and a winnowing fork in the other.
Mylars, baby, Mylars. All right. Well, a couple of brief things at the front of the show here I want to mention. But one of the coolest things, there is a CGS cameo, many of them, in the most recent issue of Batman, issue 32,
Yes.
written by Tom King, with art by help me pronounce his name there, my nerd.
Okay, and Eric, you're going to be my backstop here.
I don't know this guy, so I can't. All I know is I can try, but I don't know him. So
my guess is Miquel Janin, and I'm pretty sure he's Spanish.
Yes, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's what I think. Well, this is, I believe, the last issue of the War of Jokes and Riddles. Of course, battle between those two villains in the Gotham City, and of course, there have been many casualties between this war of civilians and whatever. I think you mentioned, Merd, that Tom has used other podcasters as cannon fodder, so to speak.
The 11 o'clock comics guys, they were just like employees of either the Joker or the Penguin or somebody who were killed. Yeah, I think they might have been the Penguin's bodyguards that were offed by the Joker, or somebody's bodyguards offed by somebody else anyway. But anyway, Vince B. and Jason Wood and so forth.
Yes. So, and I actually bought this issue off the shelf last week because I knew there was an answer to an earlier question between Batman and Catwoman. So that's why I bought it off the shelf. So I didn't read the issue when I saw it come through on Twitter that we were in the issue. So on pages 2 and 3, there's a huge 2-page spread of just pictures of all of the civilians that are killed in the crossfire, like killed by the Mad Hatter or the Riddler or Mr. Freeze, whatever. And my guess is that the artist drew all the pictures and Tom put names to them afterwards. Because there's some familiar names to us. Like there's a Sean Pryor here who's a victim.
That rings a bell.
There's a Dean Stahl who's a victim here.
Hey, that poozer.
Yes. And then when you get to the very last page, or the very last column here, there's a Kelly Shane, burned by Firefly, May 25th. Murd Ox, stabbed by the Joker on May 28th.
See, I get off by the Joker himself.
Brian Pantz, P-A-N-T-Z, crushed by Grundy, May 28th.
And that headshot looks the most like you of any of us.
Yeah, that's what I was going to get at, because
I'm guessing that's why the rest of us are what we are, because we happen to be near that picture that looks so much like you.
Yeah, there's just names with there. By the way, I never looked so good in my life. I'd love to have him look like that. I would never. Well,
Yep,
anyway.
Senor Janin cleaned you up.
That's right. But next to me is Bran Deemer, who's a woman, of course.
Woman, yes.
Shot by the Riddler on May 28th. Peter Brioche, strangled by Two-Face on May 28th. And James D., shot by Deadshot on May 28th.
James D.
So, yeah, when I saw that, I was like, oh, my God. So I didn't get a chance to read it before someone mentioned on Twitter about that. So I thought that was very cool of Tom. And
It was extremely cool of
Yes,
Tom.
because he's been a long time listener. Well, he hasn't listened any longer to podcasts, at least
Right,
ours, but-
because he's afraid of hearing the bad.
Right, but he was with us way back when. He's one of the few guests we've actually had in the studio on multiple occasions.
Made it all the way up the Beltway a couple of times,
Yeah,
just
so-
to hang out with us. Not just to pitch things he was writing at the time
right.
either, just to talk comics.
Right, so kudos to you, Mr. King. It was much appreciated. And one of the reasons why Chris Eberly could not be here tonight is because that Wild Pig Comics is officially closing forever. So he's taking care of some last-minute things at the store. I'm going to read their Facebook post. Wild Pig is closing forever. Everything must go. Inventory, furniture, fixtures, original art. I was like, oh. That means our customer service desk, display cases, etc. will be on sale. So as you hear this, everything is pretty much half off. All comics, used trades, half off. I think they're out of the magic supplies and everything. But they're actually now closing. I just found out a few minutes ago, his last day open will be Sunday, October 15th. So if you're in the area and hear this before then and want to check out the store for one last time and get some hopefully great deals, now's the time. So sorry to hear about that, Chris, but that's why he couldn't be with us tonight, so he's taking care of some things there. So we wish him the best, and I might try to make it up one last time to, I don't know, grab some things. I don't know.
Offer him some emotional support.
Sure, maybe give the man a hug. On to some other quick announcement. This came across my Facebook feed the other day. Longtime listeners may know our friend up from Toronto, Tiziano DeSantis, used to work with Fan Expo, also a longtime friend of Sal. Well, he got engaged to his girlfriend, Lauren Jett, who I got to meet a couple times at Heroes Con and last year at San Diego. So congratulations to the happy couple.
Mazel tov to tiz.
So can you imagine that wedding with people like Sal and all the art guys he knows and other, hillbillies, as I like to say? That would be a hoot and a half. I'm sure my invitation is coming.
It's going to be as much like a Dean Martin roast as like a wedding, I'm imagining.
I mean,
is Ruth Buzzy on the guest list? One can hope.
Oh my God, what's the guy who always pretends to be drunk?
Well, Dean Martin?
No. I can't think of his name.
Yeah, I'm not sure who you mean, honestly.
No, this will all be edited out. But anyway, I drive to go see that wedding. That'll be fantastic. Not that I'm going to get invited, but anyway, we don't also,
save a balcony seat for us. It would be like Statler and Waldorf.
Sure. I also got in the mail today at the studio a little package here. It says, it's addressed to me, but it says, "Hey geeks, please find enclosed a few books for Pants's personal library. I'm not sure if they're new to you or have any information you don't already know, but I saw them and thought of you. Hope all is well with all of you, and I'm hoping to bump into you guys at a convention sometime soon. It'd be great to see you all at Emerald City next year. You have the power, Brian C. Bear."
Oh, that explains the Gray Skull sign-off there.
Because, of course.
Because he's the author of a book about the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe franchise, including the most scholarly attention that the Dolph Lundgren movie has ever received.
Mm-hmm. So, in here is a paperback of Monkeys Go Mod.
Oh, yes, Mad with the A crossed
Yes.
off and an O inserted. Yeah,
As well as
it's a vintage paperback.
Dave Letterman, The Letterman Wit, His Life and Humor by Bill Adler. Now, these books look familiar. I may have them in my collection, but all my books are still in boxes from when I was putting these out, so I don't know where they are in the house, so I will definitely check these out, Brian. Thank you very much.
And maybe we will see you in Emerald City soon. I've been meaning to get back there.
Think about it, because right now things are open for requests and things for like press and stuff. And
Press passes, yes.
Yeah, think about it.
Those things,
Those
yeah.
things. Think about it.
I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it right now.
Road trip. All right.
Road trip by plane.
That's correct.
Yeah, we can't all be Tony G and just like drive across the country
That's
at the
correct.
drop of a hat. But yeah, it's been 8 years since I've last been there, and I'm itching to get back.
That long?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was 2010. Yeah, it's that time that I went up to Vancouver to visit Big Jim.
Oh, my God, that's right.
Yeah, and then he and I drove back down, and I think that's the one and only time I've been to Emerald City, and that was a great experience.
Yeah, I think it's been 5 years since I've been there. Eric, have you ever been made out to
That is not what I've done. We TwoMorrows did the show once, but we have one of our guys, Tom Stewart, lives in Seattle, so he did the show for us. We just shipped books to him, and he ran the floor for us. But so I have not done that show. I've heard great things about it, and I would love to go there at some point, but just haven't gotten around to it.
Yeah. I will check that out, see if we can make that feasible.
Yeah, I think of those shows on the West Coast, and granted we haven't been to that many shows on the West Coast, but I think of it as the West Coast version of Heroes Con.
Yeah.
That's more or less what I've heard, yes. Something along those lines. I mean, you consider all the talent that's in that area, between Oregon and Seattle, it's,
Very true.
Yeah.
Well, I have a few more segues here. Speaking of David Letterman, I'm actually going to be in town the next few days, but there was a chance I wasn't. I just found out, last Thursday, I think I mentioned before that he's going to be doing a new Netflix show to debut next year in 2018. I don't know really much about it other than it's going to be, I think, 6 episodes, and he's going to have, I think, 1 guest per show, and it's going to be, in-depth interview, whatever. But I found out they were taping the first episode, as far as I can tell, in Los Angeles this Thursday at 7 p.m. So I put a request in for tickets, got on the wait list. While I was waiting, I booked a flight and booked the hotel because it was a free flight. I was going out there, but it got to the point last night, Monday, where I still was on the wait list, and I couldn't, my flight was going to be Wednesday morning, and it's I couldn't justify flying out there without a ticket and take off today's from work, which, they were okay with, actually. But because I wasn't actually a confirmed ticket holder, I had to pass. So it's I would have loved to have been there for his first show on Netflix. So I almost made a jaunt out to L.A. because I'm like that. I'll do things like that.
Yes.
Because I went out to L.A. about a year ago for the last time Mike Nesmith performed with Peter Tork and Mickey Dolenz as a member of the Monkees.
Oh, sure, I remember that.
Went out that and came back. So I'll do things like that every now and then. But I think, listening to Howard Stern not too long ago, he's going to be on one of Letterman's Netflix shows, so maybe they'll do a show in New York. So I'll keep my eye for tickets for that.
All right, good.
Yes. And again, I'm going to keep rambling on here, guys, before we get to the preview. So again, speaking of the Monkees, I mentioned in the last episode that they're going to be appearing in the Archie's #4 comic. It's coming out from Archie Comics, of course, next February. And there's 3 different covers. One by Michael Allred, one by Greg Smallwood, and one by Joe Eisman, who's the interior artist of the book. Well, I saw Joe was going to be at New York Comic Con, which I did go up to, which we'll get to in a minute. I only made it up for one day on Saturday, but he was one of my first stops in Artist Alley when I got there Saturday, and I said, hey, I'm looking forward to the Monkees being in their Archie's book. And he goes, oh, I have the cover artwork for that here with me. I'm like, oh, you do? Oh, so he turns us right there on the front page of his book, and then right next to this front page of his book, it says, we take credit cards. And I said, well, there you go. So, and I did show this to Eric, so I'll show this to Adam in the studio. I happen to be the proud owner.
So you mentioned this earlier, but you didn't mention that the artwork was actually present in the room.
Yes, that I have.
There it is.
I have the original cover by Joe Eisman to Archie's #4. Yeah.
And people say you monkey around.
It's an homage to the cover where the Monkees are sitting on their director's chairs, facing the camera. But behind, in this case, the Archies are all sitting there, and the Monkees are behind them looking like, hey, get in our seats.
Get out of our chairs.
Get out of our chairs. So that was a nice original art purchase. I'm going to keep going on. Speaking of original art, and you're a Comic-Con, one of the dealers who was up there, Will Gabrielle, who from Will's Comic Art Page, who's been on our show before, put up some artwork recently, and he had a very nice page from the New Titans, number 81, drawn by Kurt Swan. And people ask me every now and then about artwork, and this was actually, some artwork can be very expensive. This was actually quite inexpensive. I found this page from New Titans from 1992 by Kurt Swan, only $150. And a reason I bought it, because I actually have a few other pages from the issue, it's signed by Kurt Swan. And the bottom, let's say, third of the page is a wonderful image of Pariah.
As drawn by Kurt Swan.
Because I have a thing about crisis characters in other books, so very nice. And there's a nice, it's a 4-panel page. The top 3 panels are across. And there's a note in the margins here from the editor, I'm going to imagine. It says, because the artist was Kurt Swan, inked by Al Vey. Eric, what can you tell me about Al Vey? I'm not familiar with him at all, really.
He's dead, I'm pretty sure.
He's an inker. He's worked with. He's actually very good. I think some of his best work's been over George Perez, early DC stuff. Al inked a lot of his stuff in the 80s.
Okay.
He has kind of I guess his line quality. I guess the closest person I compare him to would be like Joe Rubinstein.
Okay. But it's a beautiful page. And in the margin, there's a note from the editor saying, Al, call me about panel 3. Phantasm, quote, powers, drawn wrong.
I'm guessing that Kurt probably drew in his arms. But in the final equation here, he does not have any arms anymore. So
it's a wonderful page. I'm so happy to get that.
Yeah,
and
makes Pariah look a lot more heroic than George Perez ever did.
I got one piece while I was at the show this year. So, from Paulo Rivera, I got it's a page of layouts. So it's four layouts on one sheet. The sheet's not quite 11 by 17. It's more like a 10 by 14. And there's 4 pages on there. But it's from Daredevil #1, pages 5 through 8. With the spot and the wedding scene and everything.
Yeah, very nice.
I like the process stuff, so it was a cool little page.
And again, speaking of inexpensive art, because you can find inexpensive pages, I actually also found another dealer, 2 pages, the last 2 pages from the Tangent Flash, drawn by Gary Frank, inked by Cam Smith. I mean, this is about like the 1998, 99-ish. I think.
Mm-hmm. That sounds about right.
Yeah, it's got word balloons on it. Like I said, Gary Frank artwork. And the last 2 pages of the book, one was $65, one was $50. So you can find some inexpensive artwork at conventions. That's the moral.
Yeah, those Tangent books were actually pretty good.
Yeah, I really dug those.
Some were better than others, but
sure.
Overall, I think it was a pretty strong line. Just kind of like Elseworlds, I guess. It was where the just didn't have the staying power with the fans, I guess, because they want the real thing. But I thought there were some interesting takes on the characters.
Yeah, I think the idea was to recreate the innovation that went on in the Julie Schwartz era at DC in the 60s, where they were taking just the names of old Golden Age characters and creating completely new characters under them for the Silver Age. So they were just kind of taking the names of these characters and running with them with completely new premises. Yep. So the Atom, for example, was like the Superman figure.
Exactly, yeah.
And Superman, meanwhile, was closer to Siegel and Schuster's original concept, like a bald-headed, psionically powered villain, basically. Someone who was out to take over the world and remake it in his own image.
Yeah, really.
I think my favorite was the Green Lantern one with the.
Oh yes.
She was more like a. It was a female. She was more like a Phantom Stranger type of character.
Mm-hmm. Written by James Robinson, as I recall.
Yes.
I trust your recall.
I think that's part of why it was my favorite.
And I'm going to segue now sort of into the New York Comic Con now. A little bit of chat about that. Like I mentioned, I had originally planned on going up there for all 4 days, but then just things happened, and I decided, let me just go up for one day, and only for a short day. I was only really up there on Saturday till like about 4 o'clock, only about 6 hours. And quite frankly, that was 3 hours too long because it was packed-a-roni.
No kidding.
Now, I went downstairs first before it got really busy down in Artist Alley, which was no longer in its separate building at the Javits Center. It was now on the as you face the Javits Center from outside, the extreme left bottom of the Javits Center. And I was talking to
down in the food court.
Yeah, I was talking to Comfort Love, who actually has been will be in communications with Reed about things about how the Artist Alley went. So Like she has their ear, basically.
I can imagine what she's saying. I heard quite a few stories. A friend of mine who was set up down there said he just about passed out a few times from the heat.
Yes. First of all, it was about a third as large as it was last year, and a lot of people did not make the cut.
Yeah, a lot of really talented people did not make the cut.
Yes, which is unfortunate.
Not good at all.
But yes, it eventually got very warm down there with all those people down
Quite
there.
warm early October we're having here.
Exactly,
In the Northeast.
which was very odd to me because upstairs in the main hall where Eric was and most other people were that weren't in Artist Alley, it was quite cool up there, I thought. Would you not agree,
Yeah,
Eric?
depending on the time, I mean, there were periods where it would get warm, but on Sunday it was downright cold where I was. It was kind of weird. Another issue with the Artist Alley though was there's only 2 escalators down to that room, so rather than having that long hallway like it used to have, where the old section is being reconstructed, you had 2 escalators going down, and basically if you take the one that comes down right to in front of the entrance, like I had the misfortune of doing, you get to the bottom and there's like a wall in front of you of people, and you're just having to scoot up just enough so that the back of the stair behind you doesn't clip your foot. It was I came close to getting my foot caught in the escalator a couple of times.
Oh, jeez.
Just because you had nowhere to go. You just get to the bottom of the escalator and you're just stuck. And it was a madhouse down there. It was just packed like sardines, literally. I mean, it was a bit of a mess. But the thing is, though, I mean, the people I talked to said they did well. So I think I mean, people were buying stuff, but there are a lot of people who were just being kind of pushed through. I heard some complaints about that from some of the attendees, where they didn't feel like they were able to stop and look at some of the artists, perhaps because of the way the crowds were kind of moving, and you had no way to veer off or nowhere to gather yourself. But because in the old section, the aisles were very wide. I mean, you could fit 6 people across easy. But in the room where they're at this year, it was maybe you could go 4 wide, if that.
Right.
And from what I understand, that construction may be going on for 4 or 5 years, so they may be stuck there for a while.
Yeah, that's the word I hear as well. By the way, Foster Brooks is what I'm thinking of with the drunk guy for the roast back in the day.
Okay.
I always get Foster Brooks and Brooks Foster mixed up. I don't know why.
But yeah, I can testify to that because of the crowd in this, because there were several creators who I just sort of didn't get a chance to talk to, or like Katie Cook was always busy, David Peterson was always busy.
Yep.
As I was leaving, I was all the way at Hot Flips in the back corner, and I was leaving to go catch my bus home, and I'm walking past through one of the aisles, which is like just teeming with people, and I hear this pants, and I look over, it's Rafer Roberts.
Wow.
And so we were chatting as I was walking slowly up the aisles, and I'm going to catch my bus, goodbye, and I kept going up. I hear pants, and it's Brian J. L. Glass, and I'm like, "Hi, Brian. I'm sorry. I'm catching my bus." It was just that busy. I couldn't stop to talk to these people.
Sweetheart of a guy,
Yeah.
Brian. But,
Yes.
he will talk your ear off. So.
Well, yeah. So I eventually got my bus and got home. But yeah. Now, it was very cool to have some personal story time with Uncle Sal. OMG. So I got to his booth Saturday. He was there. He was already talking to our also good friend Steve Hovetke. I would just sort of fly on the wall there for the conversation. For a good half an hour, I just stood there and listened to them talk. And I could do that all day long.
Is this on the second story lounge?
He actually did not bring the second tier for the Alex Ross booth. Just the first level with all the various art displays and everything. But Sal looked fantastic. I haven't seen him since Comic-Con San Diego 2016. He's got a personal trainer right now, and he looks tremendous. And of course, there's stories that go along with that. I can't tell on the air, but just it was wonderful. So it was
looking
great.
a little more like Captain Marvel, then, right?
Yeah, really great to see Sal again. But one of the big announcements that came out of New York Comic Con actually happened the Tuesday before the con started. I didn't find out about it until like Sunday after the con ended. Listen to this. Reed Pop who actually runs New York Comic Con as well as C2E2, as well as Emerald City Comic Con, announces Keystone Comic Con in Philadelphia coming in September of 2018.
Well.
How about that? September 14th, 15th, and 16th at the Philadelphia Convention Center right downtown. You could have knocked me over with a feather when I read that news. It's like, wow. Because, just wow. I mean, so,
It's not going to.
Yeah, well, I heard about that during the show from one of the artists, and it kind of makes sense because Wizard World, from what I understand, is struggling now in Philly. So, and I haven't done the Wizard World Philly show since probably 2002 or 3, just because it just wasn't the kind of show that we do well at. It was more of an entertainment kind of show, I guess. And so maybe Reed can actually get a more comic centric show in there and do well. I think they could do well in there.
Yeah, that's the idea. And so, very interesting. So I will be keeping my eye on them. Dun, dun, dun.
Would that conflict with Baltimore, do you think?
Well, that's a great question. Oh, hey, you know what? While we're doing that, I'm just going to type in Baltimore Comic Con 2018 because I was there. And let's see, September 28th, 29th, and 30th, 2 weeks before Baltimore. Probably 2 weeks after Fan Expo and Atlanta. What's the con? Dragon Con.
And right around the same time as the SPX.
Wow, yeah.
In Ohio.
Well, that's not good on their part. I think they may end up with some of the same problems that Wizard had when they try to get too close to around Heroes Con.
Yeah.
Because Baltimore, that's another kind of show like Heroes Con where the artists to really support the show, and I don't see them wanting to ditch them in any way or do anything that's going to hurt Baltimore Comic Con. So that's I'm kind of surprised about that. I would have figured they would have gone more midsummer, trying to get in between Wizard World and Baltimore.
Yeah,
but,
well,
maybe that's the only dates they had open. But I'm afraid that that might be a bad opening there if they try to get too close.
Right. Well, as we mentioned, there's almost always a big show every weekend somewhere. In the
you
US.
can't avoid that. But
Yeah.
you have to be aware of what's in your immediate area because you get a lot of crossover, I'm sure. Because there's a lot of crossover in attendees just between Heroes and Baltimore, and I mean that's even farther away than Baltimore and Philly.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
But I
wish them luck, but
yeah.
that's I think they could have had better timing of that. But
keep an eye on that show. Who knows? They might need some volunteers or some paid people to help them out. I don't know. What do I know about running cons? Oh, London. Okay. So again, there's, as I mentioned, guys, jump in if you have anything to add or whatever. But a couple of things I saw come out of New York Comic Con. This one really caught my eye. They're doing an Inferior 5 book at DC Comics.
Oh my, yes. Creation.
that was the big news I saw. Yes.
Now, it says, before you start applauding, this is what Keith Giffen says, it's not that Inferior 5. It's sort of a crossover of Stranger Things and Twin Peaks.
Oh.
It's going to be written by Keith Giffen with...
Co-written
with Jeff Lemire.
Yes.
Okay.
And drawn by Giffen. Also with the 5-page backup feature, Peacemaker, written and drawn by Jeff.
Yeah, which I've seen artwork for online. It's like very nice. Cause
right.
We've had Jeff on a few times before, and he just loves drawing like DC characters, and so good for him.
Yeah, bringing back a Charlton action hero.
Yeah.
That's good news. But I'm a little upset that it's not going to be that inferior.
Well, I mean, would you really want to have a character called Dumb Bunny at this point in time? I see problems with that. So I can see, and we'll see. I think they'll come up with something good. So, given the talent involved, I think it'll be a good story. I don't. Maybe there'll be some kind of tie to some kind of nod to the old crew.
Of course, Adam, please give us a brief overview of the original Inferior 5, if you would.
Well, they were the creation of one of my my heroes, E. Nelson Bridwell at DC. They were a humor strip. They were a superhero parody of, it's well before there was such a thing as the Mystery Men or about the same time as Ralph Bakshi's Mighty Heroes, I guess. We had, Eric mentioned Dumb Bunny, and there was also Awkward Man, and the White Feather, who's like a Green Arrow analog, who's a big coward, and the Blimp, who's a fat guy who could fly, and Merry Man, who's kind of like he looked like Woody Allen in a jester costume. And they were all the children. Their backstory was they were the children of much more impressive superhero archetype-type characters, like Wonder Woman and Green Arrow and Green Hornet-type analogs. But they did not share their parents' aptitude for crime fighting, and so they just kind of bumbled through silly superhero adventures back in the 60s.
Yes. And first appeared in Showcase number 66 from 1966. Created by E. Nelson Brittle as well as Joe Orlando. But yeah, this one, according to Keith Giffen, says it's basically about 5 kids in a small town. It's post-invasion, so it's 1988. It's people relocated from the war and destruction, and people move into the town and don't realize that there's a scientific location underneath. And, of course, he's referring to the DC's crossover event, Invasion, back in the 80s.
Oh, yes, the Invasion exclamation point.
Yes.
So that's still in continuity post-Flashpoint?
Hey, with
Why not?
With Rebirth, who knows? Why not?
Yeah.
You're not so...
Unless we got Woody Allen in a jester costume, I think I'm going to be out. I'm sorry.
On to a couple of things, and again, guys, jump in.
Did you hear about the other DC announcement?
You mean the Doomsday Clock?
No, with the young animals.
No, I did not.
Sonny Liu, who I nominated for Best Graphic Novel at the CGOS Awards, and who I nominated for Best Cartoonist, I think, is going to be drawing one of a new miniseries for them. They've announced like 2 or 3 titles, and he's going to be doing one of them. It's a 6-issue miniseries called Eternity Girl.
Yeah, that's a new one. Can you remember any of the titles they announced?
I don't remember the names of them, but I think there were 3 titles, I want to say, which but by creators I wasn't very familiar with, so take that for what it's worth. Are either of you reading any of the Young Animals line?
There's the Bug miniseries by the Allreds. I've got every issue of Doom Patrol to date, and a bunch of the Cave Carson has a cybernetic eye. But those are the only ones I've
Cave
checked.
Carson was the one I stuck with the longest. I'm not buying any of them except Bug now, and that'll be just. I think so. I got one more issue left, I think.
It's a little behind schedule.
Yeah. The Doom Patrol I thought was okay. The art, I love the art, but it was a little too. I don't know. Trying too hard, I think is.
Trying too hard to be precious and strange.
Yeah. Yes. I thought the Cape Carson was pretty good. I just had to cut back on some titles, and that one was on the chopping block. So.
It looks like there's an upcoming JLA Doom Patrol crossover called Milk Wars. Right.
That was the thing. Those 3 new series are spinning out of the Milk Wars crossover.
Aha. I actually did not see that announcement.
Go ahead.
Well, so what I was going to mention is that I would have gone to this panel if I would have been at the con on Friday, is Jeff Johns talking about Doomsday Clock. They actually gave out an ash can of black and white images from the first 6 pages of the first issue of Doomsday Clock. And I want to talk about it, but there's some spoilers, so I won't talk about it, but it's available online. I am very intrigued, and it could cause... anything bringing back Watchmen in any form, like with before Watchmen, that was a whole big uproar in the... people had very strong opinions one way or the other on that. I'm sure we'll see some very strong opinions on this, but I'm looking forward to this very much. I'm really looking forward... you had me at Jeff Johns and Gary Frank, quite frankly. Throw in Watchmen and Rebirth stuff, yippee, that's my wheelhouse. I'm a simple man with simple needs, That's all I can say about that. But check it out if you're interested on the interwebs, because it's out there. I saw something else. I don't know too much about this, other than an image I saw that Walt Simonson posted. There was a Jack Kirby panel at New York Comic Con, and who showed up but John Byrne?
Yes. And he actually went back to the IDW booth and signed at the booth.
Really?
John Byrne
Yeah.
at a con.
Well, I mean,
Yep.
he used to do Mid-Ohio all the time, as I recall,
Yeah.
like 10 years ago, but hasn't been seen at very many cons since. But I was like, wow, that's great. Good to see him at a con.
Yep, IDW convinced him to come out for the panel. So, yeah, there's some great photos online of Walt and John together. I didn't get a chance to see him, so that was kind of sucked. But because I talked to him on the phone, but I've never actually met him in person. So, I was hoping I'd be able to run into him, but he was only there for the day, and I couldn't get away from the booth. So,
Well, Eric, you have anything else you want to talk about for New York Comic Con?
Loaded was kind of a pain this year. I don't know if it was because of the construction or what, but that big area where normally you unload the cars and stuff inside the fence area.
Yeah.
They were not using that this year. I don't know if it was because of the construction or for other reasons, but everyone was having to unload from the street, which was chaotic at best. And they were strictly enforcing the policy of not leaving your car unattended, which for those of us who drove up by ourselves was a little bit of a problem. I had to tag team with another guy who was partnerless, and I let him unload his car while I watched the cars, and then he watched the cars while I unloaded. So it took twice as long as normal to unload, and load out was just as chaotic. There was a huge line backed up. They weren't letting anyone up to the curb yet. We bypassed that, went up a block, double parked on the side of the road, and one of us stowed with the car while the other drug our stuff out. So it was a big mess, and I hope they do something better about that next year. It's the first time I've really had any kind of issues with. It's always kind of a pain because you have to sit in line, but that's typical at any convention. But this year was the first time where I felt like they didn't really have a good handle on how things were going to go. So hopefully they can do something better with that next year, because I don't want to have to go through that again.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a lot of fun.
No.
But, like I said, for the few hours I was up there, it was packed. I mean, like I mentioned, RS Alley, at one point, it was just literally a sea of people. You couldn't really... That's why I went there first. I was told, go there first. So I said hi to a few people very quickly. But other than that, I was mostly just walking around upstairs on the floor, which was actually a little better. Like I said, it was much cooler up there and a lot more spacious. I managed to find a few back issues I was looking for. I actually found a couple things for Shane, for goodness sake. I kept texting Shane, hey, Shane, I found this. Oh, yay. So, but you really need to spend more than a day up there. And for me to go up there for just a few hours, I was just wiped out. Maybe just not I'm out of my con shape. But they had so many great panels and signings and autographs and other events, even off-site. But my bread and butter uses Artist Alley, but I just couldn't spend any time down there. It was just chaotic. Now, again, I was also on there on a Saturday, so it was chaotic, really was.
So they've torn down the building that formerly housed Artist Alley, then?
Yes.
Are they planning to build something else on the site?
Yes. They're redoing that whole area. I'm not sure exactly what they're doing, what the plan for that area is, but they are reconstructing it.
Okay, well, let's hope that Artist Alley finds a new home there, because it sounds like where it was this year simply did not work.
But it's New York, so, Yeah,
this is the first year they actually moved a lot of the panels off-site.
Yeah.
They had some events going on at Madison Square Garden and at the Madison Theater. I can't remember the name of the theater, but they're right there right across, catty-cornered from Madison Square Garden. Mm-hmm. And then I think one of the hotels had some panels, too. Yeah. So kind of going the San Diego route in that respect.
Yeah, exactly. But again, it was just good to see a few people there. I wish I would have had more time, and I wish it would have been just for a lot of people for my taste. Like, get out of my way. I just want to do things. It's all about pants. Get out of my way. But that's not.
I don't know how accurate it was, but the count I saw was 200,000 tickets. Wow. Some other people mentioned it, and I'm kind of obliged to agree. I'm surprised that the fire marshal didn't step in at some point in certain situations.
That would have been a flashback to the first year when the fire marshal did step in.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just, oh my God, because Look online for pictures.
They weren't selling 4-day passes this year. It was just single-day passes, I think.
That's correct. You're correct. But yeah, look online for the pictures of the throngs. There, it's just a sea of humanity, as the kids were. All right, well, if there's nothing else to talk about New York Comic Con, anything else, gentlemen?
I'm good.
All right, I did want to talk about it briefly because I did manage to go up there, and it's some news about there. So let's move on then to the previews catalog. This is the October 2017 catalog for items going to stores mostly in December. So, gentlemen, we're just going to go through the catalog as usual, starting at Dark Horse. So, shout out your highlights and let's have that. Anything from Dark Horse that catches anyone's fancy?
Well, I think the big highlight for me is Hellboy Krampus Knox, not just because it's a Krampus story there for Murd, but because it's 36 pages of interior art by Adam Hughes.
Oh, man.
Yeah, honestly, it takes a little more than just a Krampus story to get me to sit up and pay attention. I mean, in this catalog alone, there's at least 2 different Krampus stories. Spawn is fighting Krampus this month, too.
Well, why not?
Yes, as you say, why not, indeed. So, as you say, Eric, though, the Adam Hughes artwork, that plus, it's Mike Mignola writing it, so he's going to be respectful to the origin myths, the folk legends that gave rise to Krampus in the first place. And it's
no doubt.
Beautifully rendered by Adam Hughes, so that kind of Krampus story I would very much like to read. So bye for me on that one.
Indeed. And then going back a couple pages, Empowered and Sister Spooky's High School Hell. So this is the first time Empowered's actually been in a comic book format. They've had some mini comic size things, and then of course the digest size trades are the typical. And as is the case when it's not one of the typical digest-sized book format books. Adam himself is not penciling it. But we have Carlos B. McNeil drawing it, so that's not really a down step, so I'll be checking that out.
Let's see, on page 65, we've got a new Rebels trade paperback, collecting the most recent Rebels, These Free and Independent States miniseries, 8 issues of it. So, Chris Eberly is not here to gush about it, so let me just say...
I was going to point that one out.
I knew
but
you would.
Also, I haven't been getting the Rebels series, but I will be getting this trade for my son because he is a history major, and he did a course. Part of his course last semester was on the USS Constitution. Now he's like all in on the USS Constitution history, so I'll be getting this for him because this one's focused on the USS Constitution.
Does he still
going back
does he do a
going back a few pages too, the Secret Loves of Geeks trade paperback looks like it has some interesting creators. You got 2 really good novelists in Margaret Atwood and Patrick Rothfuss doing stories for it.
Yeah.
The little preview art looks pretty good. The 2 little stories they preview here. So might give that a try too.
Got some stuff thrown in there from Gerard Way of Young Animal and Hope Larson, who's been writing Batgirl lately.
Yeah.
Started to ask you, Eric, is your son still doing that history podcast he'd started?
Yeah, he hasn't done one in a while, but he's hoping to get that back going again. I think he had one of his professors is going to be on the show here coming up soon. I don't know exactly when that will be though, but yeah, he's still doing it. He's actually got one in the can that he did on. He took a media kind of course where he took a history class last semester where one of his formats was to actually turn in a podcast. So it just needs to be edited. But it's on the history of video games.
Oh, interesting topic. And what's the title of his show, Eric?
It is History Roundtable. This Giant series looks kind of interesting. I mean, it looks kind of like an anime-ish kind of thing, but giant monsters and...
Page 62.
I don't know if I'll try it or not, but it's by some creators I'm not familiar with, but the art definitely looks nice.
All right. Anything else from Dark Horse?
No, there's one thing, the robotic existentialism, the art of Eric Joyner. Are either of you guys familiar with Eric Joyner?
I've heard of Robots and Donuts, but...
that's the guy. That's
right.
the guy. So this is just a big art book. His stuff's really cool. I've got a print from him that I got in San Diego years and years ago of him with he did with the Rock'em Sock'em Robots, which is very cool. So it's kind of like he does this kind of Well, they describe it as whimsical masterpieces. That's pretty much what he does, whimsical masterpieces. So if you're interested in kind of a fine art approach to toys and donuts, might be something to check out. He's really good. He's really good. I don't see anything else in Dark Horse.
All right. Then we'll move on to DC, where they're starting the New Age of DC Heroes.
Yep, the first such New Age this year. Maybe. All right, and they're leading with the Immortal Men, a group of characters who were teased in the Dark Days, The Forge one-shot, which I finally got around to reading. So, yeah, the Immortal Men, pretty much that very cover image that we're seeing here appears in one of the panels in that comic. So it's like this secret brotherhood of all the undying characters in the DC mythos. I think the Ra's al Ghul, for example, is a member of this group. Shazam is in there. And so this ongoing series, written by James Tynion IV, with art by Jim Lee and Scott Williams, is going to focus on a core group of characters pictured on the front cover here, which I don't immediately recognize, and I think at least half of them have to be new. So, yeah, I'm kind of glad that this is happening. We hear a lot about Vandal Savage. We hear less about the Immortal Man, who was at some point retroactively established as Vandal Savage's immortal enemy. Other than the Resurrection Man series that Abnett and Lanning did back in the 90s, and then again as part of the New 52, you haven't heard much about the Immortal Man and his progeny. But now, coming back in a big way. And that is one series in this new age of DC heroes that I'm definitely going to at least try.
Yeah, I might try that one. It looks kind of interesting. Not too much from this new age line really looks all that interesting outside of the Fantastic Four spinoff. I might. That one looks like it could be interesting. So.
Yeah, we got Damage #1, which is talking as we were about the Tangent comics, the Julius Schwartz gambit of just taking an existing name and building a new character under it. That's what they're doing here. I remember I've got to be one of the few people who actually liked and collected the Damage series in the 90s.
I had it too.
All right.
Well, because there was also a bit of Golden Age tie-in with the Golden Age Adam, Al Pratt.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Grant Emerson, a.k.a. Damage, turned out to be his genetic offspring.
Yeah.
I think he was like a sort of like a test tube baby that was created using Al Pratt's genetic material. And this new guy, Elvis Avery, is no connection to that at all. He's just a big, scary, Gollum-looking soldier guy.
It looks like they're doing a kind of a take on the Hulk, and hopefully there's more to it than that.
Yeah, I agree with you, Eric. I hope that there is, since they're already doing, as you said a minute ago, a Fantastic Four ripoff. Doing a Hulk.
Well, the next page you got the Silencer, who looks like a Punisher takeoff. So
it's written by Dan Abnett, so it probably won't be all bad.
It probably won't be all bad, but yeah.
Lady with guns versus guys with swords is not the kind of comic I usually read. So
exactly, mine either. But
and then we go to the Doomsday Clock #2, and it says here in the solicit, in this second chapter, the Dark Knight discovers another relic from the Watchmen world, and that's an image that I saw from the ash can. I'm like, oh, cool. So that was my first reaction. Was cool, and I was like, I'm in with this. Like Gary Frank, Jeff Johns, yeah.
Yep, I'll be along for the ride too.
Metal, not so much though. I'm not. What I'm doing with Metal is listening to Peter Rios' podcast when he goes over the breakdowns of that. No, seriously, because. He's all about that, and thanks, Peter, for putting out the Daily Rios.
Daily Rios, yeah. I got to check out his recaps, too. I've been told over Facebook.
Breakdowns.
What did I say?
You said recaps. They're breakdowns.
Well...
he coined a new term for his... Well, not a new term, but used that term for the episodes.
Break it down now. Okay. Yeah, and I will listen along, because apparently there are a lot of DC Easter eggs in this miniseries, like, all over the place.
Kona! I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Just when I thought you were starting to learn about spoilers.
I thought I told you about that.
If you did, I immediately forgot about it.
Oh, sugar!
And it's a good thing, too.
Oh, crap on a cracker. I'm so sorry.
Let's just move on.
Yeah, let's move on before we really get mad. And
Page 86.
Lucky Charms on me.
We've got another... Yeah, I'll brandish my shillelagh at you. Batman Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2. Another miniseries teaming up these two characters from the same creative team as before, James Tynan IV and our friend Freddie E. Williams II. So this time, whereas in the first miniseries, the Turtles went to Gotham City, crossed universes, this time Batman and Bane end up in the Turtles version of New York City. I liked that first miniseries. We're not being told how many issues this is. I hope it's just 2. But even if it's 4 or 6, I think I'm going to buy it. I mean, I have to support Freddy for one thing, but it's just a fun meeting of characters for another. Ooh, check out the DC Holiday Special on page 87. Mm-hmm. Some of the creators involved there.
Yeah, you got some good talent in there. Tom King and Jeff Lemire and Christopher Priest, Greg Rucka, Steve Epting, Douglas Evely.
Yuki Sevely.
Some good people in there. And plus, you get Sergeant Rock fighting Nazis. So,
And it is half off at DC Best. Thank God it's half off because it's a $9.99 cover price.
Woof. Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually already placed my DC Best order from this thing, and I only ordered 8 comic books.
Overall.
Wow. Throw in a previews and a sketchbook from Terry Moore. That's all I ordered.
I begin to think that I spend more per month than every other geek combined.
Yeah, I'm sort of really tightening my belt here. I mean, I may add a few things later after we go over I should have waited till this recording, but I couldn't wait.
I know. Pants.
But you can always add things to your order.
That's right.
With DCBS customer service.
Another one of the beautiful features of value-added services they provide you.
Exactly.
Right? Discount comic book service. Now, page 88, somebody tell Shane about this. Action Comics 993 and 994. It's Dan Jurgens writing it, Brett Booth doing the art, and it's Superman and Booster Gold meeting up. Superman needs Booster Gold's time travel help to find out whether he can believe his eyes as to the secret identity of Mr. Oz. Do you know?
I know who it is.
I do, too.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yep, you don't need to worry about that.
Okay, I won't spoil it for you.
But still, it's Dan Jurgens doing Superman and Booster in a single comic. Shane will probably want to buy those 2 issues. Page 91, a couple issues of Tom King's ongoing Batman series featuring Superman. So we get to see Tom writing the world's finest.
Super Friends.
Page 94, Kurt Busiek and John Paul Leon's Batman Creature of the Night continues. What that Superman's secret identity was to Superman. It's basically it's a take on the Earth Prime Superboy character, and so now we have kind of the same thing. A young man in a world where Batman's just a comic book character kind of finds himself drawn into that role in his superhero-less world. Page 98, Cyborg, the ongoing series, is getting a new writer in Kevin Grievous. With whom we nearly worked on a special issue of Comics Now magazine.
Really?
Yeah, we were working with him to put together little character profiles on African-American comic book characters. It was going to be for, Black History Month.
Oh, okay.
So I did a little blurb about Tyrock of the Legion of Superheroes.
Oh, okay. I have a vague recollection of that Comics Now magazine.
of that issue, I hope, not the magazine itself.
Oh, no, that particular issue, yeah, I know, but that would have been issue 5, I think. Is that correct?
Yeah, might actually have been after that.
Because it ended with issue 4.
Yeah, it would have been at least issue 5.
Okay. Like I said, I dropped most of the DC Rebirth titles, the few I was getting some time ago. Then I read the blurb on issue 122 for Titans number 18, The Rise of Troia. And this is in the book. I'm going to read it. It says here, Wally West is dead. I'm like, what? What?
He just came back.
Yeah, he just came back. Are you serious? Do I have to now go find out what's going on with Wally West now? Do you have any idea, Adam?
After all the fangasms that were triggered by his return, his emotional return in that DC Rebirth special.
Oh, God. I think the last issue I got was issue 8 or 9.
I've been keeping up with it, and, Wally's not dead yet as of whatever the last issue was that I picked up. So, yeah, this is spoiling something yet to come.
Nuts.
Going back to page 114, you get the last issue of the Commandy Challenge.
Oh, yes.
Which I want to point out mostly because of the epilogue is written by the late Len Wein with art by Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. So it's probably the last thing Len wrote, and art by Garcia Lopez. What more do you need?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah.
I've
kind of a bittersweet ending to the series.
Yeah. I'll be getting this in trade. I haven't been following along, but yeah.
I've been kind of running hot and cold on it. It depends on the issue. So.
Oh, yeah.
But I expect this one will be a pretty good one. So.
I'm going to jump back a little more to page 111. Justice League numbers 34 and 35. This is the first two parts of an arc by Christopher Priest, with art by Pete Woods, whose art I remember from his run on Robin, which I'm kind of just now reading. But it's the premise here is that Batman suffers from sleep deprivation. You know, who'd have thought? Nighttime vigilante, snoozing on the job, and he basically causes a horrible crisis and then the fallout from that is delineated for us by Christopher Priest as only he can. And, yeah, I think I'm going to be probably buying that arc. And I bet you Chris Eberly will, too.
Sure.
Page 128. I always like to point out Future Quest. The ongoing Future Quest presents. Number 5, we've got a new 3-part story here written by Phil Hester with art by Steve the Dude Rude.
Ooh, wow.
Starring Birdman!
Okay.
If he's drawing all 3 issues, that would be awesome. So, yeah, I've been getting the series. It's been pretty good. Yeah, it's not quite as exciting as that first 2 or 3 issues of the first series, but it's still pretty solid. I see here Phil Hester's writing this one instead of Parker, though. So, but yeah, Phil's a good writer, so
sure.
Hopefully won't stumble.
Yeah. It's nice of Jeff Parker to step aside and let some other folks get in on the fun. Scooby-Doo Team-Up number 33 on page 131. Scooby-Doo and the Legion of Superheroes. Always good
man,
fun.
that is just a great title. I keep seeing all these wonderful team-ups. Charlie Fish does a great job. I think, what was the last one that I read? The one with...
the Challengers?
with El Kabong and...
Kabong! And Ricochet Rabbit.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a good mix here. Teaming up with different Hanna-Barbera characters and different DC characters, just keeping it fresh.
Yep.
You could just throw in some washed-up celebrities of the 60s and 70s. That would be gravy.
Don Knotts.
Well, hold on there, Scooby-Doo. And on page 130, the aforementioned Bug, The Adventures of Foreigner, comes to its 6th and final issue.
Or Forager.
What did I say?
Foreigner.
Why? I keep doing that.
You're hot-blooded.
I'm as cold as ice. All right, I guess we're moving into trade territory here. A couple of good Silver Age collections for your interest, Brian.
Yeah, look at that Suicide Squad. I don't have much of that, so it might be interesting.
Yeah, well, I got that recently in the hardcover format that they put out with those Michael Cho covers. I got that. I still haven't read it, of course, but I knew I had to get it when it was half off because it was a brand new hardcover from DC, which this one is half off, $29.90 for trade, only $14.99.
Marvelous. And there's the trade for Jack Kirby's Superpowers, which it collects both the Superpowers miniseries, which I just bought single issues at Chris's sale.
That's right.
For about the price
for
of
a lot less than $40, I'm sure.
Right, for about the cost of the cover price of a single issue from Marvel or DC. Yeah. I got all 11 issues of Superpowers.
And let's be honest, you probably paid about the right price.
That's what I'm expecting, Eric. I tend not to hear good things about these miniseries, but it was something I thought I'd like to at least try, especially.
Oh, sure. It's wacky fun. I mean, it's just kind of goofy stuff. So
I do like wacky fun and goofy stuff.
Exactly.
All right, there on page 140, we've got some Supergirl Silver Age Adventures, Silver Age Omnibus Volume 2, a collection of Superman's late 80s, early 90s adventures in space after he executed the Phantom, the Pocket Universe General Zod and other Phantom Zone criminals and exiled himself into outer space.
Wow, but I mean, $125 cover price, even at half off cover price. Speaking of back issue sales, you could find all those issues. Wow,
very good point.
Yeah, but hey, those who don't have access to comic book stores or comic book conventions and back issues, this is another good spot to find it.
Yeah. Still not a story I'd pay $125 to read.
Right.
Or even the DCBS discount.
Right.
Still wouldn't.
Yeah.
Maybe a little more worth its cover price, though. On page 141, we've got some Gene Colan Batman stories.
Yes.
From the early to mid-'80s. And these are a little harder to find on the cheap.
That is correct.
Yes, indeed.
And those are only $40. But again, it's only 304 pages versus 900 pages for the omnibus.
So it kind of averages out. But it's a good, sizable run of Detective Comics, plus 2 issues of World's Finest. So I guess a little bit of Gene Colan's Superman thrown in as a bonus. Yeah, pre-crisis Batman is a little tough to find for less than $1.
Right.
Page
Astro City number 50.
Exactly.
And you may be remembering that Astro City just recently had issue 100, but that was of the total number of issues. This one's actually 50 of the current run.
And it's a sequel of sorts to the Astro City 1/2 story, The Nearness of You.
Yep.
Which
was a damn fine story.
Yep, and we did our top 5 single-issue self-contained stories episode a while ago. This was, if it wasn't my number 1, it was darn close to the top of my list. And now we get to check back in with the man who lost his wife to a crisis-like reality restructuring. He seems to have joined a support group for people with problems like his. Sounds like a good idea for a story.
All right, anything else from DC or going to IDW?
I don't really pay attention to toys very often, but on page 149, a toy Joker mobile, that's pretty boss.
Yeah. Did you see the price tag?
Oh! There's the punchline.
$100.
American.
Smile. Yeah.
And it's only $68 with DCBS, though.
Is that all?
That's all. And it ships in May, so you have months to pay it off.
Exactly. Yeah, I'll start my down payment now.
See, there
Easy
you go.
financing available.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right, now on to IDW.
I'm amenable to that.
All right.
So while the storyline doesn't seem to be something right up my sleeve, Asastanistas is drawn by Gilbert Hernandez, new number 1 here, so it can't be all bad, but
Yep.
it doesn't really look quite up my alley, but
Yeah, it doesn't look
sure
like it.
someone's alley.
Yeah, well, it's Gilbert having to draw disco, which he's kind of a punk kid back at the time and hated disco.
Yeah.
Coming full circle here. But yeah, if anybody out there, including you, Eric, wants to give it a try on the cheap, it is 50% off at dcbservice.com. Oh, yes, and then we get into the Hasbro barrio over here. Page 160, we've got a ROM and the Micronauts number 1. I don't know if this is going to be ongoing or limited, but it's written by Christos N. Gage, who's a pretty good writer. And I liked what Cullen Bunn did with the Micronauts characters for his run on the series. And so now this guy's going to team them up with ROM. I think I may give that a look. And then on the facing page, I've been waiting for this for months now. But I just learned recently that IDW is bringing my beloved Visionaries toy property to comics, beginning by teaming them up with the better known and better loved Transformers, just as an introduction to fans who might not be familiar. And honestly, what I've seen, I don't think I care that much for the character designs. I'm worried after all this time waiting on tenterhooks for Visionaries to come to comics again after that Marvel series of the 80s. I'm afraid I might not like what IDW is going to give me. But I will definitely try the first couple issues of their solo series once it comes out. I think I may sit out the Transformers team-up here.
Well, the first issue, main cover, is half off.
All right, well, that's something of an enticement.
Okay.
I may be persuaded.
All right.
Page 172, we got Judge Dredd, The Dark Judges. This is a trade paperback collecting some of the Judge Death storylines, the classic stuff from Wagner and Grant and Brian Boland and others. It's been reprinted several times here in the States, but if you haven't read it, that might be worth something to check out. If you're at all interested in Judge Dredd, that's some of the better stuff. Page 183, couple books that look kind of interesting. Got from Craig Yo, we've got We Spoke Out, comic books and the Holocaust. Classic comic book stories about the Holocaust and interviews with their artists and writers. Got a cover by Neil. Could be interesting. Got Stan Lee's involved and Joe Kubert's involved, so good stuff probably. So that might be worth checking out. And right beside it, Screwball, the cartoonist who made the funnies funny. Going back mostly to the newspaper strips, this is part of the newspaper strip imprint. But you got a lot of stuff from like George Harriman of Crazy Cat and E.C. Segar, and creator of Popeye, Winsor McKay, but not Nemo in Slumberland, but the Dreams of the Rarebit Fiend, Rube Goldberg. Yeah, that should be pretty cool too.
Real classic material there.
On that next page, 184, this Tales from the Age of the Cobra looks pretty interesting. I kind of like the art, so I Googled them when the previews came out, and these are European artists. This is from their IDW's been doing some European translations of some of the Euro books, and this is another one of those. But Fernandez has done some interesting stuff. I can't speak to how good the writing is, but the art's nice.
All right. Anything? Well, okay. For IDW, of course, again they have artist editions. In this instance, they have Joe Kubert's Tarzan and the Lion Man and Other Stories artist edition. This looks like it's the final Tarzan stories, Joe Kubert, and gosh, I mean, as much as I love these art editions, there are just so many of them I just can't keep up. But this,
yeah, I hear you.
You can't count on winning them at raffles anymore.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, the Kubert's Tarzan is just amazing stuff, but still, I can't afford it.
Let me just throw a couple quick mentions here before we leave.
Sure.
Page 181, there's a graphic novel adaptation of Rogue One, the Star Wars story, on offer here. Should be out just about in time for Episode 9. Episode 8, make that. Mm-hmm. And on page 185, IDW is offering an edition of The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, the novel by Mark Twain, with cover and illustrations by Eric Powell of The Goon and Hillbilly.
We're going to go to Image now, or?
Yep, the Image Comics.
All right. Rumble #1. I've been reading Rumble. This is a relaunch because he's got a new artist. James Herron was the original artist. He's left for other pastures after doing the first 15 issues, and now he's brought in David Rubin, who, for my money, is one of the best artists out there right now. He's just come on gangbusters in the past couple of years. He's a European guy who's made his way here finally, and I just love his stuff. First stuff I saw from him was the Aurora West graphic novels, the spin-offs of Battling Boy, Paul Pope's graphic novel.
Oh, yeah.
And he's done some other things. He did a mini-series with Matt Kent that he drew, that Matt wrote. That was really good. And so I'm really looking forward to this. It's basically, have either of you read Rumble?
No, I have not.
Okay, so basically it's kind of this mythological god who's been resurrected, but into a straw man's body. He's literally a walking scarecrow. So he's lost all his godlike ability, but he can still fight like a mother. So it's him taking down monsters. So that's all you need to know. Guy with a big sword killing monsters.
Did you notice there's some Mike Norton art on offer on page 197? Holiday special of Charles Soule's Curse Words.
I did not.
Which is about an evil wizard who's convinced the people of New York, in a world where magic exists, obviously, that he's a good wizard. And about the skullduggery he gets up to. And this is a Christmas story, which is drawn by our friend Mike.
Oh, excellent.
On the very next page, page 198, the final issue of Elephant Men. Come a long way since the Maura Tate artwork at the beginning of its run, closer to the early days of Comic Geek speak, but now it's experiencing its last rites. It's the final issue. I don't think I've picked up an issue of this since its first year on the stands, but I think I may check back in just to see how it goes out. Had you read Elephant Men much over the years, Eric?
Not really. I've read a little bit early on, like you. First, back when I think back when Ladrone was working on it, I read a little bit of it. That's been a while since he was on it, so yeah, it's kind of interesting, but I don't know, just didn't really get into it for whatever reason.
Yeah. And the fact that it's been published so sporadically doesn't really...
Yeah, that doesn't help. Certainly.
Let's see, well, a lot of Christmas specials coming out this month.
Yeah.
Let's see,
That time of year, I guess.
Yeah, it sure is. Yeah, page 201, there's that Spawn versus Krampus thing I mentioned. Page 202, The Wicked plus the Divine has a Christmas special coming out. Love the ugly sweater cover.
Yeah,
Yeah,
about
that's
that.
better,
Yeah, much of the rest of this image section is just...
Oh, there are many different ongoings. There are many different ongoings.
yeah, and some miniseries.
Right.
Let me throw out a mention on page 236. I think
Sure.
during our last previews episode, my laptop froze up on me right around the point where we got to the second half of the image section.
Okay.
So, Eric, I do feel your pain with your computer issues because,
Yeah.
I need a new OS too, apparently. But yeah, Void Trip on page 236 is what I wanted to mention.
Okay.
It's kind of a psychedelic space odyssey. You know, it's Star Wars meets the View Askew-niverse. You know, it's kind of like a stoner Star Wars,
Okay.
complete with black light poster visuals.
All right.
By somebody named Plaid Klaus. So, yeah, it sounds like my cup of tea. I'm planning to buy it.
All right. Was there anything else from Image?
Just like I said, a lot of the stuff's ongoing, so I mean...
Right.
But some of my favorites have issues this month. Paper Girls and Royal City. Saga's got a new trade. Volume 8.
All right. We've got to go on to Marvel next.
Sure.
I'm ready.
Oh, and Marvel Legacy continues.
Oh, look, they're bringing back Jean Grey. Check your watches, folks. Yep, with art by Lionel Francis Yu. And then Marvel 2-in-1.
How about that? Yes.
Yeah, the Marvel 2 one looked kind of interesting because he's got Jim Chung on the art there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Written by Chip Zdarsky, who's mainly been writing silly things for Marvel so far. But
Well, he's been doing a little bit of a mix of things. He's been doing some more serious stuff recently the past couple of years. After Howard the Duck ended, he can't remember what he was writing one of the Guardian series, maybe? I don't remember exactly.
well, the story is going to tie into like current Marvel Universe continuity post-Secret Wars. So, Alex Ross variant cover. And I think the regular cover, at least, on DCBService.com is another one of their 50% off bargains. So, yeah. And it's a Marvel team-up story, title. Captain lowercase t and lowercase u, but you know what I mean. So, you going to give that a try?
No.
I am.
Oh, okay. Well, good for you.
Not so good for my wallet, but good for me.
I don't know if you noticed all the John Byrne remastered variant covers this month.
Yes, I saw like the one for the Phoenix Resurrection. Saw that one.
Did you see the Silver Surfer tie into Squirrel Girl on page 18 and 19?
I did. Just because it has a Michael Allred cover.
Mm-hmm.
Hawkeye number 13, Clift is back, so it's going to be Hawkeyes again. Been a pretty good series. Even this current Kelly Thompson's written series has been pretty good. It's not, her series hasn't been quite to the level of the original Fraction Aja run, but it's been pretty fun. It's been pretty fun. One of my favorites of the Marvel ongoings these days.
Page 29, the new Wade and Somni run on Captain America. There's going to be a new swordsman in the Marvel Universe. Check that out. And they seem to have all the Wade stuff concentrated together here. On the next two pages, 30 and 31, what's something about Worlds Collide, that's what he's calling it. It has to do with the High Evolutionaries counter Earth. And the Avengers and the Champions, both teams written by Mark Waid right now, are teaming up to deal with that crisis. Page 32, Uncanny Avengers number 30. Got a cover of a Terry Dodson cover of Scarlet Witch in the clench with Dr. Voodoo, of all people. Been very happy with Peter David's Scarlet Spider series. There's two issues of that on page 39. The Slingers are back. Remember them from 1999?
No.
I remember them.
For a little while, Spider-Man had to lie low for a while, so he adopted a series of other identities.
I heard about that.
Yeah, and then a bunch of kids took up those identities and formed their own little team called the Slingers, written by Joe Harris, who's currently writing Rock Stars for Image. And now Peter David is picking these characters up and having a little fun with them in his Ben Reilly's Scarlet Spider series. So I'm happy to buy this series because it's a Peter David series featuring characters I actually want to read about.
Okay.
So, yep, I'm getting every issue of that.
Yeah, for me, the only books that I'm getting are Thor and Jessica Jones from Marvel. Just a couple of the ongoings. We're still really enjoying Thor because Jason Aaron's still on the book, basically. That's why I'm still getting it. And I really like what they're doing with Jane Foster.
Well, enjoy it while you can.
Exactly. We won't have her to kick around much longer.
Oh.
Well, I think that was one of those things where Aaron had an ending in mind all along. It's just how long would it run? You
Right.
know? On page 72, in the X-Men Blue title right now, written by Cullen Bunn, they're doing a cross-time capers story, which is, the title is a callback to one of my favorite arcs of Excalibur by Claremont and Davis. So it's the young X-Men, brought forward in time from the past. They're tripping around through time. They're going to visit 2099.
So they're still around. You see, I haven't been reading the books for a while. Okay.
Yep, they're still around. Yes,
Okay.
they are. So yeah, in Chapter 2, they'll visit the X-Men 99. Then they'll go to whatever point in the Marvel Universe timeline was the mid-90s to visit the original Generation X team while most of their members were still alive. So that seems to be a fun story. I may actually be picking those up.
Page 77, X-Men Grand Design, a new miniseries by Ed Piskor of Hip Hop Family Tree fame.
What?
I'm not an X-Men kind of guy, but this has me intrigued. He's basically doing a retelling of the whole entire history of the X-Men. It's going to be a little series of miniseries, I think. Covering every generation of the X-Men. It sounds like a very ambitious project. Kind of doing for the X-Men what he has already done for hip hop.
I had completely overlooked that one, Eric, but I'm glad you brought it up. I'm marking it down.
I didn't really see anything in the trades either that it really stood out for me. I mean, there's the Vision Director's Cut hardcover.
Oh, yeah. It's on page 96. It's Tom King's magnum opus there. On page 101, again, speaking on behalf of Chris, Black Panther, Panther's Quest. Written by one of Chris's heroes, Don McGregor, penciled by Gene the Dean Colan. And this isn't even the jungle action stuff from the 70s that Chris is always going on about. This is a much later story from Marvel Comics Presents, the bi-weekly series that Marvel did for a time there. It's 25 chapters, serialized in Marvel Comics Presents number 13 through 37. It's a great creative team returning to the character after a period away, and I'm pretty sure Chris would give this the highest possible recommendation if he were here to do so himself. So consider me the Panther proxy.
The Panther proxy. Okay. All right, well, then on to the rest of the book previews.
The rest of the book.
All right. And starting out here with Abstract Studios, their featured item, Terry Moore 25th Anniversary Sketchbook. 8,800 days of blondes, brunettes, and bozos. You had me at Terry Moore. That's one of the other things I picked up, besides the 8 comics that I picked up, was this Terry Moore sketchbook that I ordered. So getting ready for Strangers in Paradise coming back next year.
Right. Now, speaking of Terry Moore, though, there's also the second and last Motor Girl trade paperback.
Yes.
Story of a woman with post-traumatic stress disorder and her possibly imaginary gorilla friend.
What a great read.
Hanging out in a junkyard. And,
what a great look.
Fixing friendly alien spacecraft.
Love that book.
Yeah, and so now I've decided I was going to do it in trade, so I have the first trade, had it for some time. Now I can pick up the other one and get the second half of the series.
Excellent.
Good deal.
No Man Left Behind.
And from Acme Inc., the rock and roll biography of System of a Down.
Okay.
I've been clamoring for that one.
Oh, have you now?
I haven't, no.
sarcasm.
This No Doubt didn't really strike me as a Murd kind of a band. I don't know.
Yes, it's then they struck you correctly, then, Eric. Can't even name one of their songs. Okay, here's an Action Lab series that sounds kind of interesting. On page 256, a 4-issue miniseries called The Consultant. It's about a former Navy SEAL, who I believe is also a former supervillain, who is called in to act as kind of a cleanup man to protect the reputations of some well-known superheroes. He assembles a team of ne'er-do-wells like himself to help clean up the messes that might otherwise compromise the sterling reputations of Justice League types. So, cool concept. Coming out into the Action Lab Danger Zone imprint.
It's like Archie's bringing back the Mighty Crusaders yet again.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Written as they were the last time they brought them back yet again by Ian Flynn, whom I best know as the writer of the Archie, one of the writers of the Archie Sonic the Hedgehog series. It looks like we've got Jaguar, a version of the Comet, Fly Girl, a couple of different S.H.I.E.L.D. Relatives.
I guess the sorceress-looking girl is the Web, probably.
I was thinking Ms. Justice.
Maybe.
Or maybe somebody maybe it might be a new character, too.
Could be. Not
based on an old MLJ character. I think the next things I was going to mention are over in Boom Studios, part of the book.
Okay.
Looks like we've got two. One of them might not be new, but anyway, listed here on page 297. Two Grant Morrison-written Klaus specials. Klaus and the Crisis in Xmasville, and Klaus and the Witch of Winter. The latter of them might have come out last year.
Wow, he put in Klaus and Crisis in the same title. He must have been going, oh my goodness.
Yes, oh my goodness, I'm still not buying them.
Oh!
I'm going to wait and see. I'm just waiting for the right opportunity to try the original six-issue series on the cheap.
Okay.
Yeah, so I still don't know what I think.
Okay.
So
fair enough.
I just know that if eventually I decide it's the greatest thing since sliced fruitcake, I'll be able to. There's plenty of content out there for me to sample.
That's true.
Later on. Page 300. Boom is continuing to mine the Nickelodeon Nicktoons backlog. They've got a Rugrats comic coming out, and now Rocko's Modern Life. Marvel did a couple issues of a series about that back in the 90s, and now there's a new series coming out. It's not exactly something I've been on the edge of my seat anticipating, but for a little bit of 90s nostalgia for those of you who remember Rocko's Modern Life better than I do, there it is. But, however, on page 301, Bodie Troll by Jay Fosgitt. I've actually talked this up on the podcast before. Okay. Bodie Troll came out through Red 5 Comics originally, and it's the adventures of this, don't say this to his face, but cute little troll named Bodie, his friends, a crotchety old fairy godmother, and a would-be actress named Charlie. And the adventures they have together. I've described it as kind of like Disney's Adventures of the Gummy Bears with a PG-13 rating.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fun stuff. And Fosgitt is a talented cartoonist. He's done a bunch of the My Little Pony stuff for IDW lately. So I really like his work, and I actually highly recommend Bodie Troll to anyone who enjoys a little bit of fantasy, comedy, adventure in their comics. On page 303, we've got the second issue of Kong on the Planet of the Apes miniseries, another one of these silly mashups that Boom occasionally throws at us. What's really got me going towards it, though, is the art by Carlos Magno, who's done a bunch of things for Boom over the last couple of years, including like that Lantern City maxi series that we did Off the Racks on a while ago. I don't normally pay that much attention to artists, but that is one name that I've learned to follow.
Okay.
So,
and pronounced correctly, obviously.
I hope.
Are we close there, Eric?
Well, I'm sorry, I was looking at the next page. Who was this you're talking about?
Carlos Magno, who does some things for Boom Studios. He's drawing the Kong on the Planet of the Apes.
I would assume that sounds correct to me.
Okay.
Right, very good.
It is Carlos, then.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, and his artwork is very, very nice, very, very detailed line work. He did the first arc of the Kong of Skull Island series, the third trade of which is solicited on the same page here, and what do you know, it's illustrated by Carlos Magno once again. He draws some fine-looking apes. So yes, he's the perfect go-to guy for this King Kong on the Planet of the Apes story. Just look, he drew the middle of the 3 covers shown here. That'll give you an idea. So yes, excellent stuff. I recommend it.
And speaking of excellent art, the next page, Grass Kings Volume 1, written by Matt Kent and art by Tyler Jenkins. And the artwork in this thing is really good. I've seen Tyler Jenkins' work before on other things, and Peter Panzerfaust, if anyone's familiar with that series. But here he's kind of really loosened up his style a bit. It's a more expressionist, and he's doing full watercolor on the entire issue, and it looks fantastic. It's got a very atmospheric look to it. And the story itself's been really good, too. It's about this kind of town that's kind of separated itself from the state's government. They kind of like run their own little town, and they've got another town across the lake that kind of keeps an eye on them a little bit. It's kind of interesting. I'm only 3 issues into it, so I'm really enjoying it. So,
I guess one of the next big announcements in this book is page 324 from Dynamite, Barbarella #1. The pop culture icon makes her debut in America with new stories for the first time in 35 years. I didn't realize that there hasn't been anything coming out from her for that long. I've never actually even seen the movie, but I know of the character, obviously. Yeah. All I know about the movie is, I guess, well, besides Jane Fonda being in it, that's where I think Duran Duran got their name from, their group, somewhere from the movie Barbarella.
Sounds right.
But
I haven't seen the movie either, although a few years ago, Matt, CGS Matt, sent me a link to like the opening sequence, like Jane Fonda flipping around in limited gravity while somebody in the background saying, Barbarella!
It's been a few years since I've seen it, but yeah, it's whereas System of a Down is not up your alley, Murd, I think Barbarella would be. So.
Yes. Eric, I fully intend to see that movie at some point. But as far as this comic goes,
remember Mike Carey?
He's got some
Mike
talent.
Carey, he's a good writer. I've enjoyed quite a bit of things he's written, but you know how these Dynamite series go. It's very hit or miss whether they're
and
be good or not.
About a dozen different covers to choose from.
Yeah.
You want to know what the interiors will look like? Cover F is the one to look at. That's the one that's actually drawn by the interior artist.
Yeah, Kenyon Yarar on page 327. You see some interior artwork.
Yeah. It looks kind of like he's got kind of a somewhere between like the women's faces look a little more Milo Manara, but then some of the other characters look more like the guy who does Manhattan Projects, Patara.
Oh, okay.
So, page 342, Lark's Killer. Have you guys? You guys were going to review that one, weren't you, or am I misremembering?
I think you're misremembering. We mentioned it in the previous.
Maybe that's what I think.
Yeah.
The first issue. Yeah, it's Bill Willingham's new series. It's I'm still not completely sold on it yet, but it's been fairly good. I don't really like the art, but something interesting from Fantagraphics on page 348. Sparring with Gil Kane, debating the history and aesthetic of comics. Anyone familiar with Gil Kane knows he was very opinionated and wouldn't mind telling you about it. But it's like got a lot of really interesting interviews here with Hal Foster, Walt Kelly, Noel Sickles, Harvey Kurtzman, Bill Everett, Denny O'Neil, Howard Chaykin, Walt Simonson, Robert Crumb. So it's that should prove to be a very interesting read. That's Gil Kane interviewing those people. So,
I never even knew he did anything like that.
Oh yeah. He loved to talk comics with people people who knew comics, and he would argue a lot. He would argue with people quite vehemently. So I would think it would be very interesting to read this. For Mike Plug fans, I know there's a few in the crowd. Thicker Than Blood is now in trade paperback.
What page is that on?
350. It's a 3-issue miniseries they did in the late 2000s. collected here. It's a 3-issue series. I haven't read it myself, but it's Mike Blue. So,
just to go back to that Gil Kane book for a minute, looking online, he passed away in 2000.
yes.
And I can't believe I've never even heard of this, topic in the meantime. But did they really keep this? Has anything like this ever come out before? Is this a collection, I'm wondering, or just?
In 1974, he can't remember where it was published, but there are some things. Actually, we're going to be publishing some of that in an upcoming issue, in the next issue of Alter Ego. Some of these writings from 1974.
Oh, okay.
Well, this was not the interviews, but these are just essays he wrote, kind of take on the same thing. So yeah, he was pretty active with that. I don't know the circumstances of when how these interviews were conducted, and maybe for like at some of the early comic shows, perhaps, or something.
Okay.
I don't know, but it just struck me as very intriguing.
Yeah, it is extremely intriguing. Yeah, it's $14.94 to do CBS, 35% off. Yeah, I mean, for me, there's not a whole lot from the back of the book. And actually, I mean, one of the very first things was from abstract for me, so I don't have much from the back of the book that really catches my eye. It's why I'm going to rely on you two to help keep things going here. If you see anything, please.
Oh, page 386, we've got a softcover edition of "You Have Killed Me" by Jamie Rich and Joelle Jones. This is some of Joelle's earlier work, so it's not quite as sharp as her Lady Killer stuff, but it's still pretty good work. So might be worth checking out. If you like Lady Killer, you might like this.
Oh, I love it. Do You Have Killed Me? It comes out on Valentine's Day, 2018.
Yeah, you're right. They're great.
Is there anything on page 422 you might like to tell us about, Eric?
Oh, let me get there. I'm still working my way there. Hold on a second. I did take notes, but I didn't quite get this far back to the back of the book taking notes here.
Well, of course, happens to be the section for TwoMorrows Publishing.
I figured as much, but... one other thing on the way there, though, on page 402, Crazy Quilt, Scraps and Panels on the Way to Gasoline Alley. Looks like it's a Frank King collection of things. So Frank King was the artist of Gasoline Alley, so this is like the stuff he did leading up before he took over Gasoline Alley, so it could be interesting, too.
Oh, yeah, it is certified cool by Previews.
Well, yeah, there you go. That's all you need to know.
That's all you need to know.
Okay, so TwoMorrows. Yes, that is indeed a Rob Liefeld cover on back issue. You're not imagining things.
Well, Deadpool and Cable.
And let's see what else we got in you. The Kirby Collector number 73 with a nice big Barna cover. That cover there, that cover image was done for a proposal. Kirby was going to do a spin-off of Mr. Miracle called Big Barna and her Female Furies. That's some production art he did, kind of for the pitch.
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, and this is all about the one-shots and things like that, including The Prisoner, which was one cool thing that happened at New York Comic Con. Guy who has all the pencils for The Prisoner, the complete issue, came by. The Kirby Museum is always set up right beside us at the show, and so they got good scans of those pencils.
Oh, that's awesome!
The entire issue.
Yeah, because
I didn't get to see. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see them. He was very protective, so.
Yeah, I imagine so. But yeah, the Kirby Museum I've seen them set up at like the comic art cons I go to in New Jersey.
Yes.
And people will just bring them some things. They're all about keeping these images. It's great, great stuff.
Yep. And then the big book there is It Crept from the Tomb. This is actually a second volume of this. It's the first one was Best of From the Tomb, which From the Tomb was a British fanzine, kind of like they do kind of for horror, kind of what we do for comics. Same kind of approach. We're very, interviews and articles, and pretty thorough kind of stuff. So we're doing a second volume, and this has got some stuff that was never published because the magazine, there was separate later issues of the magazine, but it folded before it could be published. So it's got some stuff that never got around to publishing.
All right. Anything else from the book, whether it's in the comics section or back with the books or magazines?
Well, you got a new Quantum of Woody series.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say.
Okay.
It's on page 426 and 427. They're trying it again. It's a property that they have and that they want to keep trying to do something with. But I think I decided after the last volume, which was written by, I think, James Asmus, and which I didn't like all that much, I think where I've landed on that is it's Christopher Priest's brain baby, and if he's not writing, I'm not buying.
Okay.
That's my policy now.
Is that your policy?
Yeah, and this one is written by, some of their ad copy calls him a rising star, and perhaps more honestly, other copy calls him deeply alarming and untrustworthy writer, Daniel Kibblesmith, who apparently has written jokes for Stephen Colbert, so at least he knows humor, so that's something. But even so, it's a continuation of what Asmus set up with the characters, which is just not as good as what Priest did the first time around back in the 90s. So I think I'm probably just going to sit this one out.
Okay.
So we get to the book section, page 456. We've got In the Night Studio, Illustrations After Dark by Dan Brereton.
Oh.
96 pages of damn fine painting.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the next page, we've got Joe Sinnott, Embellishing Life, hardcover.
All right. Well, before we wrap it up, Eric, anything else you want to push with TwoMorrows that's coming out?
Well, like I said, we've got new issues coming up soon. Got the rock and roll issue, a back issue coming out the next 4 weeks. And that issue of Gil Kane, the Gil Kane issue of Alter Ego, should be coming out the same week. And then a week or two after that, we'll have Groovy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did
you get a chance to look at that at the booth? Did you stop to look at that?
I didn't get a chance to look at that. It was such a hurry to do thing. But we
got some advanced copies for the booth flown in, and it looks really cool. It's got a section on the monkeys.
Yay! You had me at Groovy.
It's not just about comics. It's got interviews with the musicians and stuff on the comics and a little bit of everything in between. So it's more about the whole time period than in the pop culture than in some TV stuff. And so you got the Partridge Family. And,
yeah,
a lot of good stuff. So if you're interested in that time period, like I'm sure I think both of you will probably enjoy the book quite a bit. So.
My copy is pre-ordered, Eric. I look forward to reading it on the way down to Heroes Con next year.
If not sooner.
God willing.
If not sooner.
It's perfect. June, for me, is the grooviest time of the year.
Why? Why June is groovy?
It's just everything is just in bloom. There's all kinds of flowers just bursting into with life and color, and that's what grooviness is about, man.
Oh man, okay, man.
Love and colors and flowers.
I won't harsh your buzz.
Warmth and life.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up here once again.
And incoherence.
This episode was brought to you by Discount Comic Book Service. Check out their site at dcbservice.com. Also, episode was brought to you by LearnToGradeComicBooks.com. Check out Kevin's site and use the coupon code CGS2017 to get 5% off your order.
If you'd like to send us an email, our address is comicgeekspeak@gmail.com. If you'd like to leave a voicemail, the number to call is 267-702-6642. You can like us on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter. Our handle is @comicgeekspeak. We always encourage folks to visit thecomicforums.vanillaforums.com, which is our forum site, where you can leave feedback about this and many other episodes of our podcast and get into discussions with fellow fans of Comic Geek Speak on various geeky topics.
Such as Mr. Eric Nolen-Weathington.
Yes, that's right. Eric is a frequent contributor there at the forums, which is much appreciated.
No problem.
And we give a special thanks, as always, to everyone who has donated to the show monetarily in the past. The show would not be what it is today without you. And we are, as always, uniting the world's mightiest heroes, one listener at a time.
masterpiece. Opinions like the sea